This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America on a Sunday morning. I'm Seth Merrow, and this morning with Mike Callahan. Good morning, Mike.
What's going on, Seth? How you doing?
What's going on is you and I were talking before we went on the air. What's with the snow?
This was the first time I saw it. I had seen it on Twitter, on Facebook. People showed me pictures from Galway, some pictures from up north, but it had been a little sporadic. This was the first morning that I woke up to it, and I was like,
Yeah, I drove over to the Walmart Friday night, the Walmart in Saratoga, and there was snow on the ground. I was like, oh, man, come on, too early. But it's just as symptomatic of the weather, really East Coast, because we saw it racing yesterday as well. They were off most of the turf except for the feature, which we'll actually watch at Churchill, but they're off the turf. You know, the two nice stakes races at Aqueduct yesterday, they got moved off the turf, and they were off the turf up at Woodbine as well. It's been a rough summer into the fall.
well, we got a lot of moisture a couple days ago, and then it gets real cold. It kind of freezes over, and then at that point, I mean, you can't run
Yeah,
on
we're
that.
at the time of year. If you get some wet weather, it's just the sun's not up long enough to begin with, even if it is sunny, and then you get a little breeze, but it's just not warm enough to really. But we'll keep our fingers crossed. You know, the potential is always there in New York to go, a week or so, maybe into December if you get some good weather down at Laurel as well. So we'll hope things turn around and get some sunny and a little bit more dry weather for the remaining few weeks of the potential turf season up here. But of course, we're right around the corner. Talked to Ron Nicoletti yesterday, right around the corner from the championship meet down at Gulfstream. That means plenty of turf racing. Tampa Fairgrounds opens up, I think, in a week. So there'll be some turf racing for
I'm
us to
actually
play
going
when we're
to
there.
the trek down to the fairgrounds this year. All the tracks. Just try to. My sister actually lives in New Orleans. She's getting married in February, so that 5-day span where she's getting married, I'm also going to go down to the fairgrounds. So hopefully, I can do a call-in with you.
Yeah, nice.
I'm not sure if you've ever been. You've ever
I
been
have,
to
and I was about to say
Okay.
you'll like it. It's a nice track. I did one year. I visited my sister in Arkansas and stopped at Oak Lawn, then Fairgrounds on my way down to a couple of weeks in Florida. This was about 10 years ago or so. And I actually liked Fairgrounds enough. I did a one-day stop at Oak Lawn and left that night and did an overnight. And I went to Fairgrounds 2 days in a row because I liked it that much.
Yeah.
But part of that was in Hot Springs is nice, Oak Lawn. But once the track was over, I pretty much decided I'll get in the car and go. Yeah, you don't leave the nightlife in New Orleans quite as quickly. So
That's true.
I did a little Bourbon Street that
she-
night.
she-
Then I thought, well, I'll
Yeah.
sleep in and go to the track.
She's my younger sister. She's 27, but I was texting her before, getting the plane tickets ready for the wedding, and I was like, Shannon, you ever been to the track? How far away is it from where you live? And she's like, it's 10 minutes away. And I'm like, you had to go. Like, how much I like horse racing. I work for a horse racing company, and she's like, no, I've never been. And I'm like, you're killing my soul. You're killing my soul.
And as I say, you'll like it. It's a really nice facility. And of course, the racing's good. There are a lot of familiar faces.
Absolutely.
As I say, it's one of those to put on your list if you haven't been out there. All right, we're going to talk some stakes action and really international stakes action as well. Just before we do that, reminder, Del Mar underway at their fall meet. Had John Lees on Racing Across America yesterday. They're 2 days in. They kicked off on Friday. The fall meet at Del Mar is becoming kind of popular. John said out there it's a little more subdued than the summer meet. The racing is good and kind of fun, and as he said, the weather really in November is the best weather they get all year long. So again, some turf racing to watch out there as well. I kind of hated to see Santa Anita end after the Rainbow Six carryover last Sunday. Sitting here on the air while we were doing racing or OTV Live, I had the Santa Anita PPs printed up just to look at that crazy mandatory Rainbow Six that had $1 million in the pool. Went up to $7 million, which worked out well for the racing world, certainly for Santa Anita. You're the day after 2 big days of the Breeders' Cup. How do you get the juices going again? That's how. Well, I looked and I said on the air, by the end of the day, I'll either have a play or it'll just be a little too complicated of a sequence. I looked at the sequence. I singled in the first leg, and so I thought, I can put together a little ticket here. $38 ticket, hit it. Now, it was completely not completely. It was mostly logical. I mean, and even the one that wasn't logical.
Just think about what you just said. Mostly logical. Pay 600.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
where you really have to think. All the dead money that's in the pool at that point. It's not really. I mean, everybody thinks $7 million, get the huge score. We're going to get 30,000 or something like that. But having repeat tickets of a logical ticket like that for 600, that's where you really make your score.
Yeah, and so I turned my 38 into 600. I was very happy. I'm hoping maybe 800, 1,000, 1,200, but the 600 I was happy with. And again, we talked about it on the air. I hope other people jumped in as well. But I said, talking to Sully on the Handicappers Report a couple of days ago, and I've talked to other people as well, just in passing. I like the way it turned out. The whales put in a lot of money into these pools, and it happens on those mandatory days. Occasionally, crazy things happen. There are 3 tickets that'll pay $2 million. Congratulations to the guys who put a 10,000 ticket together and won it. But the little people put money into those carryovers too. Absolutely. And so occasionally you like to see this happen where there was over 10,000 winning tickets. Right. And I'm sure a lot of them had, similar to me, a $30 or a $40 or maybe $100 ticket that got up to $600. And I like to see that. Spreads the money around. That money's going to go back into the pools. And so I like the result on
and
Sunday.
You got inflated odds, obviously. Probably a pick six, a 20-cent pick six anyway, that would normally pay somewhere around $200, maybe $198. You get 3 times the value because of the pool size. In a situation like that, but like you said, it's all about the format. So you have a $300 bankroll, and you put together a $38 ticket or something like that. Do you put together a big caveman ticket where you just kind of put all 300 in there, or do you repeat it for $30? Because you could really make some money doing it that way. So again, half of it's handicapping, half of it's how you situate yourself. But again, it's a good position to be in when you're in it. So.
Yeah, and it was fun though. Again, the day after the Breeders' Cup to have something like that to jump into. So congratulations to folks out at Santa Anita. And these rainbows. There are mixed opinions about them. They think some people say it pulls too much money out of the pools on a long-term basis, and I get those arguments, but I've kind of been on board since Gulfstream has had them on those. Once that carryover gets to about $500,000, certainly up to $1 million, because even on a non-mandatory day, the consolation can pay $600 or $800.
Yeah.
So for me, they've been kind of fun. But
it was fun to watch Del Mar on Friday. The late pick 5 paid $116,000 for 50 cents. So.
Yeah.
2 tickets.
And we should mention they have 2 pick 5s out there. First 5 races, last 5 races, pick 5s out at Del Mar. So they have joined New York. New York now has the 2 pick 5s as well. All right, let's jump into our stakes recaps. And I said earlier international, and I wanted to go back and show from Tuesday. Actually Monday night our time, Tuesday their time, the race that stops the nation. Just because internationally, this is one of the most well-known races in the world, the Melbourne Cup. We're going to show the entire race here with the audio, but just to give you a little prep, the eventual winner, to take a look on the outside as they come down the stretch. Blue silks, red cap, it's cross counter. The announcer does not pick the horse up until about the last 50 yards.
He's the only one that's really flying at that point, but like you said, it may have been the binoculars. Zoned in on the horse that was kind of flying up the rail there, but it was quite interesting because when you watch the full replay of it, he actually got caught up with a horse that broke down, the Cliffs of Mohair, and really was able to navigate a nice trip, swung wide into the stretch, and then at that point it's just a 24-horse cavalry charge coming down, but a very nice performance from a Godolphin horse. They had run 1-2, and you take a look, and I was looking at their past performances just to see how it kind of led up to it. 2 Godolphin horses that had run 1-2 in a Group 2 the race before, and actually beat a horse named Kew Gardens, who came back to run 7th in the ARC. So, I mean, this horse was quite logical going into it. I think was one of the favorites going in, but really deservedly so, and one I think you have to keep an eye on, at least internationally.
Yeah, Godolphin has been chasing this race. They play on the international stage, and one of the headlines I read after this win was now they're only International Gold, Kentucky Derby. They still have that hanging out there, but that could often gets a Melbourne Cup win. This horse, Cross Counter, interesting. The Melbourne Cup win on Tuesday. Before that, in August, had been at York in England. Goodwood in August as well. Won a stakes race at Glorious Goodwood. Was at Royal Ascot earlier this year. Ran fourth in a field of 18 in a stake at Royal Ascot, but gets it done. Cross Counter will be the winner. Running second is a horse called Marmello. Again, another European invader. You go back to July, had been a Longchamp, was at York in June, over at Longchamp in May. So again, another horse that had a European campaign for at least part of this year. And running third, and I love this, and I have to mention this, a Prince of Arran, if I'm pronouncing that, A-R-R-A-N, Arran. I love this, and you see this in the Melbourne Cup every year. I just can't imagine this happening over here. But the Melbourne Cup on a Tuesday means, of course, big stakes races are Saturday of that week, and there's always some big stakes performers coming out of those Saturday stakes. Prince of Arran is one of those. On Tuesdays in the Melbourne Cup, 3 days earlier on Saturday, he won the Lexus Stakes at Flemington. So a 3-day turnaround, as they say.
The Linda Rice angle. It's the Linda Rice angle. Run back.
Yeah, it's
when
hard.
Good? Keep running.
It's hard to imagine that happening over here, but that'll be the third place finisher, Prince of Arran. But again, we'll show you the entire Melbourne Cup. The race that stops the nation, and as you alluded to, Eclipse of More broke down and unfortunately had to be euthanized. So the Australian newspapers had that controversy floating around with some of the activists and whatnot protesting, the whole sport of horse racing.
Unfortunately, it happened going past the stands, so people were able to see, whereas if it was happening on the backstretch, you kind of say what happened, but when it was right in front of people, it kind of blows up a little bit more. So.
Essentially the biggest race,
Yeah.
at least media-wise. It was an unfortunate event, certainly. But other than that, 23 horses come down. As you said, labeled it perfectly. It's a cavalry charge. Stretch run will be a lot of fun to watch with, again, Cross Counter being Blue Silks, Orange Cap flying on the outside. Up next, this past week's from Tuesday, the Melbourne Cup.
Melbourne Cup. Ready to go. Set to run, and they're racing in the Melbourne Cup. Run away from the centre, jumped away well towards the inside. Auvray about middle of the field, out Von Jamask out well. There's a wave coming towards the outside. Runaway Finch and also Ace High. A Prince of Arran's trying to tuck in behind them with Sir Charles Road. Ventura Storm is nice and close early with Nikita. Very deep early is Rostropovich onto the course proper, and with 500 metres to go on the first lap, it's Von Jamask and Runaway, followed by Finch and a Prince of Arran. Ace High out deeper, and then came Sir Charles Road. Auvray tucked away the inside, Rostropovich out deeper, then Young Star, Sound Check and Ventura Storm from Magic Circle. Yucatan is 4 deep, Nikita the inside from Chestnut Coat, and then Muntaha Red Cardinal. Back in the field then is the Cliffs of Moor as they run past the stands from Who Shot the Barman. Now the Cliffs of Moor has gone amiss, I'm afraid. At the back of the field, the Cliffs of Moor has gone amiss and checked a couple of runners. So they leave the straight now with 2,200 metres to go, and Runaway is the leader in the Lexus Melbourne Cup by a length and a half and slows it right down. From in second place, Ace High. Von Jamask is third, and Finch in fourth place. Fifth is Rostropovich out deeper from Sir Charles Road, a Prince of Arran. Then Soundcheck, who can't get in. Young Star is underneath of it, and they were followed by Ventura Storm and Auvray. Yucatan is next on the outside from Magic Circle, and then came Chestnut Coat, the outside of Nikita. Further back is Muntaha and Who Shot the Barman, the veterans very deep from Red Cardinal. Then came Best Solution, Marmello. Well back is Cicada, and they were followed by Cross Counter at the back of the field with Avilius. Heading towards the 1,400 metres in the Melbourne Cup, and it's Runaway in front by a length to Finch, who's working up on the outside. They were followed by Ace High, third the outer. Then came the inside Von Jamask, and next in the field as they run towards Jaquita Lodge with 1,200 metres metres to go is Soundcheck, and then Sir Charles Road. Next in the field is Rostropovich around a Prince of Arran, then Ventura Storm. The inside next is Alvray, and then came Young Star, a length the Magic Circle. Next is Yucatan around those with Nikita. A length away to Chestnut Coat, Who Shot the Barman, followed by Muntaha, Red Cardinal. Well back in the field then is Marmello, and then came Zacada, and they were followed by Cross Counter towards the back of the field. Best Solution second last, and Avilius last. So it's Runaway coming up towards the turn in the Melbourne Cup at the 700. Leading from Finch, Vonja Mask, then Ace High. Sir Charles Road sneaking up on the inside of Prince of Arran, making up ground. Then Ventura Storm, Soundcheck. Yucatan about 6 off the lead around the turn, followed by Aubrey and Nikita. Finch up to Runaway, followed by Vonja Mask. Sir Charles Road, a Prince of Arran's presenting from Ventura Storm and Rostropovich. 300 to go. It's Finch with a Prince of Arran on the outside. Rostropovich is running on, and Marmello back to the inside too. A Prince of Arran at the 200. Marmello wearing it down. Marmello gets up on the inside, and here comes Cross Counter. Cross Counter coming at Marmello. Cross Counter's flying. The Blue Army have done it at last. Cross Counter has won the Melbourne Cup from Marmello, a Prince of Arran, Finch. Then Rostropovich, Young Star. Back behind those horses, Sir Charles Road.
Well, that was fun. If you had cross counter, especially, because that's one of those that about an eighth of a mile to the finish line, you're kind of like, oh boy, I don't know. And then, hey, maybe, and then what?
Yeah.
And then gets up.
At the top of the stretch, you're figuring I just got swung so wide. There's no way I'm going to be able to mow him down.
But you're kind of doing one of these tilted heads deals where you're like, I might be able to get there, I might be able to get there. Exactly, go. And then everybody kind of is gasping for air at the end. But again, rightfully so after a race that long. But very nice performance.
Charles Appleby and Kieran McAvoy, trainer and jockey there. And again, Godolphin winning owners as Cross Counter gets it done again last Tuesday, Monday night our time, Tuesday their time, down in Australia. And again, it's just a huge race down there. They call it the race that stops the nation, implying that everybody kind of pays attention to it. I don't know whether, I think horse racing down there is similar to here, in that maybe it's lost some of its luster over the last, few decades, but it's still, like the Derby is here, it still has a certain importance to the nation down there. You could get some glimpses of the crowd, very big crowd, and it's always fun that the day after the press, some of the big events in England, they do it too, but the newspapers down there, there's a lot of pictures of people who obviously partied way too much coming out of the track, and it's a big day down there, like the infield at the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, internationally, we were just talking about when we were watching it, just how fun it would be to go down there.
Yeah.
But
Like you said, it's really good racing. You take a look at some of the past performances of who the winner had faced, and then also winners, repeat winners. You're talking Cracksman, who won the race last year. You had Postponed, which is a very predominant name that raced a few years ago, and also Telescope, who was one of the favorites in the Breeders' Cup Turf. So, I mean, like you said, this is really good racing. You just don't get a chance to see it because of the time difference, and obviously racing at night when, over here anyway, when it's daytime for them.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to see it, because again, it's one of the more important races in the world, and I'm sure a lot of people did miss it, but it was an exciting addition, certainly. All right, getting back to this country, let's take a little bit of a look at some of the action. A little bit later on, Frank Vespi is going to join us, so we're going to hit on some of the Laurel Stakes from yesterday. That was probably the most prominent stakes venue yesterday. The Sunshine Millions preview at Gulfstream Park West. I had Ron Nicoletti on yesterday, and those were nice stakes races, but I think maybe a little more prominent were the Laurel Stakes races. Now, again, Aqueduct would have been a nice couple of stakes races on the turf.
Yeah,
on
they
the
had
dirt. I don't know what.
I was really curious to see how Kerbin was going to come back off that third place performance down at Keeneland, but obviously the race was, scheduled for the turf, but ended up going off. So
Again, we'll do Laurel a little bit later. That didn't leave a whole lot for yesterday to look at, but one of them was the Commonwealth turf down at Churchill Downs. 3-year-olds going 1 1/16 on the grass. And this was the lone turf race that stayed on the grass down at Churchill. We'll watch the stretch run. I put Hot Springs on top. Hot Springs is the number 7 horse for Steve Asmussen and does get it done. Was coming out of a win in the Jefferson Cup at Churchill at the end of September. Had raced at the end of the meet, running 4th at Saratoga in the Saranac, but then again followed it up with a win over the course in the Jefferson Cup and came back with this win in the Commonwealth Turf. Zero Gravity, a horse I didn't have in my mix, runs second for Joe Sharp.
Was coming out of an off-the-turfer at Keeneland, and before that had run in a stakes race at Kentucky Downs, but hadn't hit the money there. So I was a little bit leery on Zero Gravity, but does get in the mix, running second at 15-1. Marzo, the 2-horse, runs third. Reride was interesting. I had Reride at the bottom of my mix. That was the horse you and I were talking beforehand. They went over to Dubai with that horse to try the UAE Derby. Had run in the Jim Dandy. I thought that horse might be interesting as the other Asmussen runner. That one ran fourth in here. And then 2 other horses I had in my mix, Sniper Kitten for Mike Maker Ken and Sarah Ramsey, and March to the Arch for Mark Cassie. I thought they'd both run decently. They wind up running, 5th and 6th in the field of 7. So a little bit disappointing with the horses I used underneath. But again, did have Hot Springs on top. He wound up actually going off as the close second choice at 9-5. March to the Arch, the 5th place finisher, also 9-5 for Mark Cassie. Winds up, as I say, 5th. With the close-up second choice, Hot Springs. Pretty nice. In a division I say all year long, I think is a lot of fun, the 3-year-olds on the turf. But it was a nice run from Hot Springs.
Absolutely. A nice explosive kick down the stretch. And again, like you said, Reride I thought was an interesting horse going into that race, and just trying to search for a different angle. Really high hopes coming out of Sunland. Obviously, they went overseas in the UAE, but maybe a horse to recognize as in a 4-year-old campaign. May have just lost a little bit of form right now, but may regain it like did earlier on this year. So
you said before we were while we were watching the Melbourne Cup there, we were talking a little bit about Reride and how they are just trying to find their spot. I think they will still continue to do that as a 4-year-old, and he may be one of those horses as a 4-year-old, because clearly he's shown talent.
He has ability.
Where they just have to look at the condition book and pick their stakes races around the country. And nobody better than that than the Steve Asmussen barn. But as a 4-year-old, you'll see him going to some of those out-of-town kind of older division stakes races, I think, and making his presence.
Yeah, like I said, such high hopes going into it, because I don't think any of us thought that he would actually take the trip over to UAE to run in the UAE Derby. So obviously there was high hopes going into it. There's a lot of ability. I think it's lost right now. But like you said, if you can find your spots, you may actually get a nice price on Reride next time out with it kind of being overlooked. So.
All right, and again, with a light slate of stakes races yesterday, I thought we'd also, during this segment, maybe do a little recap from last weekend. Haven't talked to you here on the air since the Breeders' Cup, but I thought we'd kind of fold in some of the results we saw and some of the Eclipse Award conversation that has happened this week. And first up, going to pull up the Breeders' Cup Classic, and we're going to watch Accelerate Get It Done, number 14, over a very game Gunnevera, a horse I liked all year long, and then at 30-1, running second underneath in the Classic. I didn't like Gunnevera that much. Thunder Snow runs third, Yoshida runs fourth. But coming out of this race, obviously the conversation closed on the handicap horse of the year. That is Accelerate. But the conversation opened up on Horse of the Year. Accelerate with this win, the Awesome Again, the Pacific Classic, the Gold Cup, and the Santa Anita Handicap. We're looking at 5 Grade 1 races, including the Breeders' Cup Classic. Well, what do you make of that campaign versus Justify, who Justify debuts on February 18th, winds up his campaign on May 9th, winning the Belmont Stakes and the Triple Crown. A compressed schedule like that, 6-for-6, undefeated. It's phenomenal. I'm not taking anything away from Justify, but as I stand back and look as an Eclipse voter, I'm pretty sure I'm going to tilt towards Accelerate.
Yeah, a lot of people. Well, I think the only knock you can give to Accelerate, and obviously he's done nothing wrong this year, is the last 2 races that he's finished in, the way that they finished. In this one, they finished 27 seconds for the final quarter. It wasn't flashy. I think that's the big thing, is they're going to say Horse of the Year, but of all the years in past, recent anyway, really wasn't that flashy with Accelerate. You know, you had the race against West Coast, where I think a lot of people thought, well, maybe going into the Breeders' Cup, Accelerate is beatable. But he set the ideal trip in here. They did go quick up front. You expected the pace to kind of collapse, and him and a few others were the ones kind of coming home. But again, I just think you take a look at the time, and you're ultimately probably going to go with Accelerate. But I just think that this is one year where you say, I landed on him, but I'm not thrilled.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting conversation. It will continue interesting to see how people vote. But I wonder if
things weren't tipped a little bit when the NTRA poll came out this week and Accelerate was number 1 and Justify was number 2. But we'll see. That's a small sample of the universe of Eclipse voters. So again, the conversation will continue and be very intriguing. All right, also a conversation that opened up because of the results. The 2-year-old filly, and we'll watch both of the potential contenders. First up, we'll take a look at the juvenile filly turf, and I have to admit, I'm probably tilting in this direction. I had Brian Netto on the other morning. He's going in the other direction with Jaywalk. We'll watch that too. But we're watching Newspaper of Record here, the number 8 horse, the number 6 horse, and man, she just looks so phenomenal in all 3 of her races. Won the maiden special at Saratoga by 6+ lengths, won the Miss Grillo at Belmont by 6+ lengths, and wins this Breeders' Cup Juvenile Filly Turf by 6+ lengths. I just think visually she's been really impressive and run away from some talented horses. I think I'm going to tilt in this direction, but this is a legitimate conversation with, as we'll see next, Jaywalk in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Filly on the dirt. And Jaywalk came out of a win in the Frizette to win this race. So she's now has 2 Grade 1 wins, which is, the Breeders' Cup race for Newspaper of Record was the only Grade 1 on that one's resume. Jaywalk gets it done here after a front-running win in the Frizette. She does it again in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Filly on the front as the number 7 horse, and winds up winning by 5.5. I get the argument either way here. Again, it's going to be fun to see how it plays out in the conversation over the next couple of months and which direction the voters go. But boy, for me, I'll wait to put my stamp on this one, but I'm probably tilting towards Newspaper of Record.
Yeah, unbelievable performance. I knew, and most everybody did, that Newspaper of Record was as good as advertised. I'm not sure if they ever thought that she'd give that performance in the Breeders' Cup, but just look at the times. I mean, she ran 139, which doesn't sound fast, but again, it was an off turf, and the times really didn't justify anything throughout the 2 days of the Breeders' Cup. But you take a look at the boys in her age group; they run 140. She runs 139, geared down. I mean, that just shows you. And you figure lengthwise, a full second is about 5 lengths. So she's geared down 5 lengths in front of the boys in there. I'd tilt towards her too as well. But again, you can't take anything away from either one of them. Jaywalk, very impressive performance. Albeit, I think going into the race, we expected a lot faster of a pace. Everybody kind of sat back. Bellafina sat back. You also saw a horse like Sippigan Harbor and Serengeti Express. Serengeti Express was pretty much the X factor in that race. From the rail, you figured that she was going to go. She didn't end up going. They kind of all sat off of her, and Jaywalk really got the best of it. Take nothing away from her, but I just think a little bit more of an aggressive race, it could have panned out a little bit different, especially for Restless Rider, who really did all the dirty work around the far turn and then just got a little bit tired.
Again, a couple of fun divisions there with conversation. To me, that's fun. When you come out of the Breeders' Cup and you get into the end of the year, and if folks still want to put maybe an exclamation point on the season, there are still some races where they can take their shots. Most of them in the 21st century won't, but again, fun conversation with some of those categories. And you and I were talking before we went on the air. I pulled up one more race because this threw one category maybe into a little bit of confusion. We'll look at the Breeders' Cup Turf here, and it didn't help settle the Breeders' Cup Dirt Male because it's a female winning. It's the Great Enable, number 2 Enable wins, but running second, a European 3-year-old filly also. Sadler's Joy runs third in here. It's Robert Bruce, the Arlington Million winner, runs seventh. And so I showed this race because A, we just get another chance to see the Great Enable get it done. But B, who is now the Turf Older Male. The Turf Older Male, to me, is completely up in the air.
Yeah, you were talking about who you could possibly have. Glorious Empire had a nice summer campaign up in Saratoga. Robert Bruce coming off of the Arlington Million win. Catapult, is an interesting horse that a lot of people should remember from the NYRA circuit. He's actually raced over here and really emerged this year, running some really nice races out on the West Coast. He ran a solid second in another Breeders' Cup race, the Breeders' Cup Mile. There's a bunch of ways you could go in here. I think there's going to be, like you said, a lot of confusion going into it. I think it's going to be a mixed ballot sort of deal.
Yeah, I pulled up this morning. Mike Watchmaker from the Daily Racing Forum does his Watchmaker Watch. It's a weekly look at all the Eclipse divisions. He continues it throughout the year, but I was curious to see what he had in the turf male category. And he has Expert Eye on top, Catapult second, Stormy Liberal and World of Trouble third and fourth, and that's one thing you never think of sprinters in that division, but the comment he wrote underneath was kind of interesting. I honestly have no idea on how to rank this crazy division. The division was in disarray all year, and the Breeders' Cup didn't clarify matters. Well said. And this will be fun to see where the conversation goes.
A really good case to Stormy Liberal.
Yeah.
A horse that's just time and time again times it perfectly, wins by a nose almost each and every time, but has done nothing wrong this year at all, facing some really good sprinters throughout, and obviously the tremendous stretch duel with World of Trouble down the stretch. So.
Yeah, it's got Glorious Empire in the 5th position out the 2 nice races up at Saratoga. Robert Bruce in the 7th position, but you make that an Eclipse Award of the win in the Arlington Million, and it's a tough division. You know, there have been talk in previous years of divisions like this of, gee, maybe put abstain on the ballot, maybe some years you don't give an award out. I kind of get that argument, but ultimately, I mean, to me, there's got to be an award well, you look at the Oscars, you know, every Oscar-winning best movie is done. Hey, when Chariots of Fire winds up on the TV, people aren't saying, oh, I'm putting out 2 hours so I could watch the 1980 or 2 best movie. But every year you have the ceremony and you got to give it. So I think there should be an award, but it's just going to be tough to decide.
Yeah, no standouts. Unfortunately, this was a year with a couple of really good horses, but in some divisions there was no real standout. So you can make a case based on what you view to be the best criteria, but again, it just all comes down to your opinion. You're going to have critics, you're going to have people who oppose your views, but that's just the way that it is.
That category will be fun to see what the final voting is, because I think you may have 4 or 5 there who are kind of vying and fairly close in the voting. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, again, a little bit later on, Frank Vespi will join us to recap some of the stakes action at Laurel yesterday. That was a fun day at Laurel. But when we come back, first we'll do a little handicapping for this afternoon, give you some ideas for Sunday. Coming up next on Racing Across America. Stay tuned.
To me, it's a privilege to be able to do this, and I mean that sincerely. And we see the need for it more and more. And when you do see the people that are in line for the turkeys, it makes it all well worth it.
Visit Rivers Casino and Resort, the Capital Region's only destination for live table game action and the hottest new slots paying out millions. And they're off. Horse betting is now at Rivers Casino and Resort with Capital off-track betting terminals and live tellers located just off the gaming floor at Van Slyck's. Get in on all the action at Rivers Casino and Resort.
What if there was a way to become a better horse player, to have a better knowledge of the game, to be more successful? What if there were a way to take what you've learned, what you know, and make better decisions, better choices, to know how to connect the dots? In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool, but not the only tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. These too are important tools, and you'll find them all right here at Capital OTB. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
To me, it's a privilege to be able to do this, and I mean that sincerely. And we see the need for it more and more. And when you do see the people that are in line for the turkeys, it makes it all well worth it.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. Sunday morning, taking a look at some of the action for Sunday afternoon. A couple of races up at Woodbine. Mike has the feature out at Delmar. I've got some action at Aqueduct. Let's start up at Woodbine. Their race number 2, maiden special 2-year-olds going 7 furlongs. Mike, what do you see north of the border in the second race?
Yeah, this is a pretty nice main special weight. I'm going to try to beat the favorite in here, the one. I have it 7-1, 3, and 6 in here. The number 7, Matthews Orb, sired out of Orb. first two races weren't bad at all. Second, fourth place finishes, the last one being fourth behind the favorite in here. But for me, it's all about the stretch out. It's going from 6 to 7. The Sire and Dam both love distance, so I'm expecting this horse to relish the stretch out. The extra furlong in here. The pace does look to be quite swift in here. The one's going to break with some speed. The 4 could also be some honest pace as well in here, and also the 8 on the outside. So I'm going to go with the 7, Matthews Orb on top. At 9-2 to get the job done on the stretch out and try to turn the tides on the number 1 in here, the Boss Factor, who I do have in second, and a horse that was bet down to odds-on favorite in debut, but didn't do any running. Last time out, the blinkers helped tremendously. Last time finished a solid second, got a nice 69 buyer, which is tops among anybody in here. And I just think on the improve, you take a look at that workout on November 1st, first of 24, 59-4. So if this horse is able to break well and get the lead and set a relatively easy pace in here, the stretch out is a slight concern in here, which is why they have the horse in the second spot in here, but we'll see what happens with the Boss Factor, the number 1. And then in the third spot, the number 3, Rising Star, a horse that finished 6th on debut at a little over 11-1 that day, but is one that was bought for $325,000. So there is some promise, has some good pedigree. It's nice to see Eureka Da Silva is going to be aboard. Is actually a nice jockey change in here. Another one that's going to like the distance, stretching out from 6 to 7 in here. And you're going to get some decent value. 6 to 1 on the morning line, probably go off somewhere around 4. 4 to 1, 9 to 2 in that range, but we'll see if the 3 can do some damage in here as well. So in the second, I saw it 7, 1, 3, and 6. Seth, you're going to take a look at the Aqueduct first. It's a maiden claimer. It's $30,000, 6 furlongs on the dirt.
Yeah, I'm going to try to stick to the dirt because, again, we're in the weather situation where the turf races are a little bit unknown at this point in the morning. So, again, we'll try to get you off to start in the daily double and then one a little bit later in the card. But the opener at Aqueduct, 7, 2, 1, and 3. I'm just kind of flip-flopping the 2 morning line favorites. I put Infatuation, the 2 to 1 favorite, underneath, and I'm going to use Ash and M on top by Painter. Painter this year, 59 first-time starters, 10 wins, 8 seconds, 3/3. So 21 in the money, 18 exacta finishes out of 59 starters for the Sire. Rudy Rodriguez can have them ready. Nice steady string of workouts. I'll use Ash and M on top. Infatuation in the second spot. Jeremiah Engelhardt, firster from Mission Impassable. Okay numbers for Mission Impassable. 26 first-time starters this year. A couple of wins as second and 4/3. But again, Jeremiah can have them ready. So we'll use the 2 firsters, 1, 2, again in flip-flopped order from the morning line, and then OK Honey in the third spot. Of those that have run, just get pulled a little bit in this direction off the race 2 back on the dirt, which number-wise kind of stacks up with what is a relatively weak field of those that have run so far. So in the opener at Aqueduct, 7, 2, 1, and 3. Out at Woodbine in the 8th race, the feature today, the Glorious Song at Woodbine, $100,000 for 2-year-old fillies. Going 7.
Yeah, this is quite an interesting race. There's 5-horse field, 3 of them trained by Mark Casse, and which Casse's going to win in here. I think the 2, and the reason I talk about this race, because I think the 2 is a standout in here. I think it's going to relish the stretch up from 6 to 7, and it could be a single in any of your multis or verticals in here. But I have it 2, 4, and 3. The number 2 is Super Charlotte. 1-9 debut, very nicely, got a nice 73 buyer. Came home in a quick 110 and 2 for 6 furlongs. The workouts have been tremendous. Take a look at that workout on November 4th. Bullet 47 flat. I think this horse, first time Lasix, bought for $325,000. 1-9 debut is stepping up against some nice horses that are also trained by Mark Casse, but I think looks to be the big standout on here. Hopefully we get the price. The second choice right now on the morning line at 9 to 5. Could probably go off somewhere around that, hopefully, when post time comes. But I have the 2 Super Charlotte on top. Underneath the 4, CC Tequila, a horse that won last time, coming from off the pace, and a one other than optional claimer. Did beat a nice group that day. Twitter Storm went out finishing 3rd behind. CC Tequila went back and came back and won the next time out. So if you like the whole who did you beat angle, this could be a key race in here. So CC Tequila is a definitely nice horse, the number 4 in here. And then in the 3rd spot, the number 3, Devious Charm, won last time out at Kentucky Downs, albeit it was on the turf, now going to the synthetic. Unknown for this horse. Did have one try up at Saratoga in a similar situation, but for me, I think it's going to be one of those horses that's pressing Super Charlotte, could get caught up in the speed in here. To me, it looks like it's 2-4 all day, and hopefully in the multis, I'll just be singling the 2 in here, so 2-4-3.
I'll toss out there for those people who believe, and there are people who believe that when horses get named after people, there's some intention there. They don't do it indiscriminately. They wait until they get the right horse. Well, note that Super Charlotte, owned by Live Oak Plantation, which is, of course is Charlotte Weber, who was the heir to the Campbell Soup fortune. Hence, a lot of her horses have that super name with the OU in there. But Charlotte Weber, Super Charlotte, you would have to think they may have a future plan for
Absolutely,
this.
which is why I was shocked to see this horse go off around 6-1 on the debut, because connections are there, bought for a huge price in September of 2017. So we'll see what happens. We're not going to get that price today, but looks to be very potent, especially on the front end in here. So you're going to take a look at the Aqueduct second. It's a conditional claimer, 14,000, non-winners of 3, lifetime, 7 furlongs on the dirt. What do you think?
As I say, nothing clever in here, just trying to stick to some dirt races and maybe get you off to a daily double start. 6, 1, 2, and 3 for me. Filet of Soul on top. It's Jason Service. It's a horse getting some class relief from the last start. Tried this company a couple back up at Saratoga and was a good second. I think just looking at the rest of this field, Filet of Soul probably has an edge on this group today. Best surprise goes out for Bruce Levine. Nice second at this level last time. 2 back, a good third. That was on the turf, however, and in fact 3 back, 1 at a 14 level, a B condition level. But again, that was on the turf also at Monmouth. But as I say, that last race at this level was on the dirt up at Saratoga and was pretty good with some speed. So should be a player. Right on Faith. Another one that was at this level last time, that was in a different barn, has since moved to the barn of Chris Engelhart. So I think given what we saw last time and the move to the new barn, I think both of those are positives that have the potential to move Right on Faith forward. In race number 2 at Aqueduct, I have it 6, 1, 2, and 3. Mike's going to take a look at the feature today out at Del Mar. Again, their opening weekend for the fall meet. The Del Mar feature today, race number 8, the Betty Grable. 3-year-olds and up, fillies and mares going 7 furlongs.
And this race is as tough as you can get it. You can make a case for almost everybody in here. I'm going to try to beat the favorites. I have it 5, 8, 3, and 4. The number 5, Show It and Mow It, going out for Gary Sharlock. Rafael Bejarano has been aboard for the last 5. This horse has been progressively getting better. You take a look at last time, did finish 3rd behind a runaway winner in Sky Diamonds, but the second place finisher was Anonymity, who came back to finish 3rd as an upsetter in there in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint. So you have to take a look at the last race. You like the way that the 1-2 finishers came back to finish, and the Buyers Wise fits really well in here. I think sits an ideal trip, sitting off of the 1 and 2 are going to be the most speedy of speeds in here. So I think could sit a nice trip, just stocking the speed, get a jump on the closers, and at 8-1 on the morning line, I definitely like Showing It and Mowing It to upset in this spot. Underneath the 8, SY Sky, a horse that's done nothing wrong in 5 career starts, 3 wins in 2 seconds. But the really only question was off the layoff, had been off for a year and a half. Last time in reappeared, but finished a solid second, only beating a length and a quarter behind the number 2 in here. So I think second off the layoff should be much more fit in here. Also, one that's going to show some speed, could be sitting just off the 1 and the 2 in this spot at 5-1 on the morning line. I think offers tremendous value. And then the 2 favorites in the 3rd and 4th spot, the 3 Just Grazing Me, a horse that 4 career starts, 2 for 4. The other 2 were second place performances. Last 2 being at a mile. So while a bunch of horses here are stretching out, this one's actually cutting back to 7 furlongs. One, I have nothing wrong to say. Just for me, is a little bit pace dependent. I know we talked about the 1 and 2 having speed, but there doesn't look to be an abundance of speed in here. So if they set some moderate fractions in here, the 3 is going to have a lot to make up at the end. And then the 4 in the 4th spot, a horse that just loves Del Mar, 3 for 5 over the course. So a very interesting race, very deep field. I saw it 5, 8, 3, and 4. All right, you're going to take a look at the Aqueduct 9th. It's New York Stallion Series Stakes, 7 furlongs on the dirt. What are your thoughts?
I made this a play today on the 1 sheet. I said box up my top 3. If one of those scratches, maybe pull in the 9. But I have a 10, 11, 8, and 9. I'll box up the 10, 11, and the 8 in an exacta. Frosty and plenty of early speed and certainly had shown all kinds of ability through the Saratoga meet. Saratoga wound up, a 5-6 race win streak. Came back last time over at Belmont and just kind of flopped there. But boy, has a nice record at Aqueduct. I'm going to look for this horse to get back in line with the return to Aqueduct. Frosty Ann on top. Frosty Margarita, we'll look for maybe a Frosty exacta, as Frosty Margarita was second in this race last year. Another one most recently, the numbers don't get my juices flowing. The last couple of starts, but there are numbers underneath that are very, very good and compete with this bunch. And I think the Rudy Rodriguez trainee stands a chance of getting back to those this afternoon. Then Highway Star, Chester and Mary Broman owned horse, tried the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mayor Sprint last time. Should appreciate this New York company a little bit more. So again, we'll box up the 10 and 11, 10, 11, and 8. If one of those scratches, throw the 9 in the 9th race at Aqueduct on this Sunday afternoon. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, Frank Vespi from the RacingBiz.com. He was down at Laurel yesterday. We'll recap some of that stakes action right after this. Stay tuned.
To me, it's a privilege to be able to do this, and I mean that sincerely. And we see the need for it more and more. And when you do see the people that are in line for the turkeys, it makes it all well worth it.
Visit Rivers Casino and Resort, the Capital Region's only destination for live table game action and the hottest new slots paying out millions. And they're off. Horse betting is now at Rivers Casino and Resort with Capital off-track betting terminals and live tellers located just off the gaming floor at Van Slyck's. Get in on all the action at Rivers Casino and Resort.
What if there was a way to become a better horse player, to have a better knowledge of the game, to be more successful? What if there were a way to take what you've learned, what you know, and make better decisions, better choices, to know how to connect the dots? In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool, but not the only tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. These too are important tools, and you'll find them all right here at Capital OTB. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
Come on!
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Oops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Welcome back to Racing Across America on a Sunday morning. Seth Merrill and Mike Callahan in the studio, and as promised before the commercial, joined now by our friend Frank Vespi. Again, if you want to catch up with racing in the Mid-Atlantic region, no better place than Frank's website, theracingbiz.com. And, of course, racing in the Mid-Atlantic yesterday. Laurel, great stakes action, and we'll hit on that in a few moments. Frank, good morning.
Morning, guys. Good to be with you again.
Before we get to yesterday at Laurel, a couple other topics. First, I always like to peruse the Racing Biz and tout people to go over there and catch some of the nice articles and whatnot. You have obviously a lot of recap of Laurel yesterday, but I also want to tell people I love these kind of articles. Nice article by Linda Doherty, Ghosts of Racetracks Past, the birth, death, rebirth, and final demise of Garden State Park. As I say, I love those history places. About there was a local series on the local PBS channel for a while, that places that aren't here anymore. And I love those kind of articles on the racing side of things as well.
Yeah, you're going to be happy then, because this is sort of the beginning of a series that we're going to be doing over the next few months. And there are a whole bunch of tracks that used to exist in the Mid-Atlantic that don't anymore. We started with Garden State. Obviously, you've got Atlantic City, you've got Bowie, you've got a whole series of Maryland half-mile tracks that don't exist anymore. You've got, the ones in Pennsylvania, Commodore up in Erie, and the one that predates Philadelphia Park, Liberty Bell, I think it was, and so there are a whole bunch of tracks that used to be in the Mid-Atlantic that are not anymore, and so we're going to spend the next couple months, every couple weeks or so, with an article looking into one of those old tracks. So, and I'm with you. I'm a history guy. The last time I was at Saratoga, my wife and I went to the Battlefield Park up there, and so to kind of dig into some of these old stories is fun for me, and our readers seem to be enjoying it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. As I say, I love those kind of articles. You mentioned Bowie. Am I correct? Did I read something in the past couple of weeks that they're going to kind of maybe revitalize that as a training facility?
Yeah, we actually had that story about 2 weeks ago, and what they're talking about, they hung on to Bowie because there's a lot of sort of flux and uncertainty in Maryland racing right now with what is going to happen at Pimlico. And what I think is sort of become clear is whatever happens to Pimlico, it is not going to include training. If Pimlico continues to exist, it's going to be for a short ship and meet centered around the Preakness, and training's going to have to take place someplace else. And Bowie is still a property that the Maryland Jockey Club owns, and would be easy enough to turn back into a training facility. And I guess Belinda Stronach has really been saying that what she wants to do is what she calls a world-class training facility. And I guess you could sort of look at it this way: that Gulfstream's got Palm Meadows, that Santa Anita has San Luis Rey, and Bowie may become the Maryland racing version of that, sort of a high-end training center near the racetrack.
Which is a great idea, because I think part of the reason we get the big fields down at Gulfstream is they do have that group of horses that they can tap into because of the extra training facilities in the area. So I think that's a boost for potentially racing in Maryland. All right, again, before we get to Laurel, I want to hit on one more topic. Because I've been asking everybody this weekend, your thoughts from last weekend on the Breeders' Cup. We looked a little bit earlier, nice Eclipse discussions as far as Horse of the Year with Accelerate, going back to Justify in the Triple Crown, but Accelerate in the Breeders' Cup Classic. The 2-year-old filly is at Newspaper of Record or Jaywalk. Enable looking very good in the Breeders' Cup Turf coming over from Europe. A lot of storylines coming out of the Breeders' Cup. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, there certainly were a lot of storylines. One of them was not me making any money.
Well, that seems to be a common storyline with everybody, so don't feel bad.
Well, it just, the thing with the Breeders' Cup is you really got to be fishing around for the blow up the tote board score, and that just wasn't happening last week. So I was fishing around, and I got my butt kicked. But
that is everybody's lament exactly. You plan for the Breeders' Cup to have a couple of crazies happen that you hope you're on board, but not only weren't we on board, there weren't the crazies to be on board with.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But to me, and I wrote about this, to me the overarching story really was the fillies.
Yeah.
The distaff set was so much more interesting, and frankly, so much better than the boys were during Breeders' Cup weekend, in my opinion. I mean, you look on Friday, the 2 filly races were faster than the 2 boy races, and the fillies were just super. Newspaper of Record was just dazzling in that effort, and I thought Jaywalk was really, really good. I mean, the John Service filly is really, really good. And then you come to Saturday, and honestly, Accelerate's a nice horse. Obviously, he's very, very good. He obviously was best in the Classic, but I don't know. To me, they were staggering at the end of that race. And then you contrast that with the turf, with the 2 fillies, Enable and Magical, drawing away in very fast final quarter. I mean, they put 7 lengths between themselves and the rest of the field in the last quarter mile. I mean, they were really, really good and really impressive. And to me, Accelerate winning the Classic the way he did, with everybody just sort of slobbing home in 27 seconds, Justify's got to be Horse of the Year. I hate to say that. I hate the emphasis on the Triple Crown. I hate the fact that he had a 4 or 5 month career, but that's a historic accomplishment. Accelerate, he's a good horse. He's not Horse of the Year.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch and listen over the next couple of months and then see where the voting goes. But it was a fun weekend. All right, speaking of fun weekends, a really nice fun day of stakes action at Laurel yesterday. And again, for the racingbiz.com, you're always there on the big days covering some of the action. Before we get to the races themselves, just give us an overview of the day. While we were in the commercial break, you were asking about the weather up here, and we mentioned snow. Certainly, everybody on the East Coast has been battling weather a little bit, but what was it like yesterday at Laurel overall for the nice stakes action?
Yeah, you know what? It was okay. It was cool, but when the breeze died down, it wasn't too cold. It was okay. It was crisp, but okay. It was sunny. It didn't rain, which is kind of a semi-miracle around here right now. And it was a nice day. They had a nice crowd. The handle was good, and the racing came up good. Although it was interesting in that I thought 3 of the stakes, it was a horse that you could pretty logically get to as your winner, a favorite or 2, and a couple other logical players. And then 2 of the stakes, going back and looking at PPs, looking at the charts, I could never get those horses. So it was a fun day overall, and good racing, and a couple of really nice performances, I thought.
And let's jump in and talk about some of those. Start things out with a logical. I had Dave Rodman on yesterday, and we went through some of the stakes action. And as we talked about the Smart Halo, and yesterday on OTB Live during the afternoon, Congrats Gal just kind of jumped out at me. Not only was she 2 for 4, a couple of wins, bookending a couple of stakes performances that were okay, including a third in the Schuylerville here at Saratoga. But boy, that bullet workout, 46 and change on the 4th of this month, certainly jumped off the page. And number 5, Congrats Gal, does get it done pretty easily as the 30-cent to $1 favorite. Also notable on board, Trevor McCarthy, who had a phenomenal day yesterday. 2 horses that were underneath are Super Freak running second, and May Never Know for Wesley Ward run second and third. Again, they were kind of logical as well. But the winner, man, she looked great in here.
Yeah, she really did. I mean, I sort of got on to her when, early on she won First Asking and then ran in the Schuylerville and ran well in the Schuylerville, was third, and then ran in the White Clay Creek at Delaware where she was second. And Cal Lynch said to me after the race, "It's like, well, we felt a lot better about that, losing that race when Jaywalk went on and did what she did. And, Jaywalk obviously is going to be 2-year-old filly of the year. So that defeat looks a lot better in retrospect. And this filly's really good. Cal was funny. He is the trainer, and he said after, I was so nervous because I've been getting my ass kicked all meet here at Laurel, and so I wouldn't talk to anyone. You called, and Jim Dunleavy at the forum called, and I wouldn't take anybody's calls because I was so nervous about this race. But no need to be, as it turned out, because she was a mile the best and won by almost 7 lengths. And as you said, it was a good start to the day for Trevor McCarthy. And, he really did a nice job with this horse. They've been trying to get her to rate a little bit, and she did that pretty nicely off the speed. And he said he felt like he was getting hustled a little bit by our Super Freak, who was kind of pushing forward. So he had to go maybe a little earlier than he wanted, but never even showed her to the stick, hand ride all the way through the lane, tons the best. This is a really good filly here, and they can have some fun with her if they can keep her together.
Yeah, again, they were third in that Schuylerville up at Saratoga, and as you say, second behind Jaywalk. So there is some nice 3-year-old potential sitting there as well as the calendar turns in a couple of months. Safely Kept is race number 5 yesterday. 3-year-old fillies going 7 furlongs. And again, it was kind of logical for me. I had the 10 over the 9. It's going to come in reverse order here with the number 9, America's Tale. Who's on board? Trevor McCarthy gets it done in here. Running second was the number 10, number 1, Majestic Reason, finishes third. As I say, I had him flip-flopped, and number 10 was the 2-1 favorite. 7-2 third choice, actually. America's Tale gets it done, though, in the stretch. There's a little bit of a duel up until about the 8th pole, and then America's Tale just kind of runs away in the chart margin 2 lengths in here.
Yeah, the horse I really liked in this race was Split Time, which was the Linda Rice trainee who scratched out. So I was completely flummoxed after that. But I got to say, I didn't like America's Tale even a little bit in here because there's absolutely no way she can make the lead over the 10 horse, Estilo Femenino. So, of course, she makes the lead over the 10 horse and is 2 lengths clear after a quarter mile and 23 seconds. So I guess it shows you what I know. But, it was a pretty good effort. I mean, the whole issue, the way I saw this race is Estilo Femenino goes to the lead, and then the whole question is, can she get 7/8 of a mile? So when she didn't get to the lead, there didn't seem to be much chance she was going to pass America's Tale. And she actually gave a pretty good effort and got up to pretty much even terms, in mid-stretch. But America's Tale was too strong in the lane. And I thought it was a really astute ride by Trevor McCarthy. Get out, grab the lead, and say, okay, you're going to have to pass me, to a horse that never passes horses.
Yeah, it was, again, a nice result for the winner. Trevor McCarthy on board again on that one, as I say, on a very nice day for Trevor. All right, let's go to 2-year-olds again. In the James F. Lewis, $100,000 up for grabs, 2-year-olds going 6 furlongs. And like the Philly race, these are kind of the Philly race we watched earlier. These races are kind of fun, 2-year-olds, and so you're always looking to the future. I, again, had Rodman on yesterday, and he was looking at Follow the Dog and Bustin' to Be Loved, the 2 horses on the outside. I wound up tilting in favor of Follow the Dog, but when I was on live yesterday during the afternoon, I had it 7-5-8-4. I had the 7 over the 5 Scrap Copper. I said to Rodman yesterday in the morning, and then during the afternoon when we could watch the odds live, I said Scrap Copper is the beaten favorite last time in the Maryland Million Nursery with a troubled trip. At the 9-1, that horse became a lot more interesting to me, and we're watching that one get it done here at a $21.40 mutual over Follow the Dog, who went off at 2-1. Nice little exacta in there that paid over $76. So I was kind of happy with the result in here. But the notable thing is Scrap Copper with a clean trip kind of validates what they thought of the horse last time.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is kind of a useful handicapping. It's kind of one of those lessons you need to learn over and over, but This is a useful one. This is a horse that won at first asking, ran great in the Laurel Futurity on the turf, just got beat there. And then, as you said, he was up the track as the favorite in the Maryland Million. But if you go back and watch that race, he goes literally to his nose leaving the gate, nose in the dirt leaving the gate, which leaves him, already trailing the field. And I talked to Trevor McCarthy after the race, and he said, when that happened, the horse, who had never really been behind horses before, he said he kind of panicked, and then he just kept putting me in bad spots. And so after that, it was all over. So you kind of knew that if he could get a clean trip, if he could get away okay, he had a chance to make some noise in this race, and he absolutely did. And Trevor put him in a perfect spot, just kind of Follow the Dog's trip. Follow the Dog had a good trip, ran a really good race. And then it was the 2 of them, and they were 7 clear of the rest. I was 5-7-4, I think, or 7-4-5 is what I had in this race. So I like those 2 horses. I like Passcode, who went off as the favorite and disappointed. But I thought really the story, as you said, was Scrap Copper getting the clean trip, and also Follow the Dog, who has now run 2 terrific races since they put the blinkers on him. That was a good move by trainer Mariah Montoya. And this horse, both these horses look like they're going to be okay in these little stakes around here.
Yeah, and going back to the Philly race, again, I think the 2-year-olds coming out of Saturday, the top finishers look very good. And again, have to reiterate, Trevor McCarthy, another win on just a phenomenal day for him.
He almost won another race later. He won 4 overall, and in the next race we'll talk about, the City of Laurel, he got beat a half lane.
Yeah, just an incredible day for the young rider. City of Laurel we will look at next. $100,000 up for grabs for 3-year-olds going 7 furlongs. And you talked about not being able to land on horses. I had Majestic Dunhill, the winner, at the bottom of my mix. I called it 7, 4, 5, and 8. So I was kind of searching around here as they came down the lane. Majestic Dunhill was a question mark for me, though, that the career was on turf. Now, did have a nice workout up at Belmont most recently on the main track, and it's George Weaver. So that's the reason I put it down in the bottom of my mix. There was enough there that you could think, well, maybe. Well, as we see here, it looks pretty good in the stretch on the outside, getting up chart margin a half a length at 9-1. Smooth B and Oldies But Goodies, horses I did not have in my mix, however, at 9-1 and 8-1. And as I say, the horse that I did have on top, the number 7, Old Time Revival, boy, off of the win last time, I thought this horse would run fairly well at 9-5, last in the field of 9 for Old Time Revival. So a little bit disappointing there. But again, Majestic Dunhill, turf to dirt, George Weaver, nice win.
Well, Seth, it sounds like you and I should combine picks one of these days, because I couldn't find Majestic Dunhill with a map, but I actually like Smooth B in this spot. So we could have had the $186 exacta if we combined forces here. But Majestic Dunhill, all his races have been on turf. He's okay on turf, but nothing special. I sure didn't see this effort, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with him going forward. As you said, I mean, at some level, the story with Old Time Revival, who had run really well in recent starts, had been butting heads against some good horses, had just won the Shaladon, which looked like a pretty good heat, and really he had no excuses. He had a good trip. He was hung out a little bit wide, but he's not the only horse that was hung out wide. I mean, Smooth B was right there with him. They were basically in the same spot for the first half mile, and Smooth B gets beat a half length, and Old Time Revival completely stops. So really, I'd be curious to, I have not yet, but I'd be curious to talk to Kenny Decker and see what happened with that horse, because that had to be a big disappointment to them. But certainly a good effort from Majestic Dunhill, rallying late in a race where some of the horses that were up close stayed on. So to rally from the rear of the pack as he did was a pretty nice effort. I had talked to the owner of Oldies But Goodies before the race, and I said, "What do you think?" And he said to me, "I think we're going to be tough if we can go 7/8." And it looks like 7/8 is maybe an inch too far for him, but going 3/4, he could be a handful.
Yeah, because he was in the lead there late, but did just get run down a little bit. I'll toss out one more thing on Majestic Dunhill, just because I've been talking about this on the handicapping show for probably 4 weeks. Majestic Dunhill coming out of a stakes race at Kentucky Downs. I have liked those Kentucky Downs shippers for the past month when they go to other venues, regardless of whether it's turf to turf or, like yesterday, turf to dirt. And another one of them comes through at $20 plus. All right, let's go to the Richard Small, wrapping up the stakes action yesterday. $100,000 up for grabs, 3-year-olds and up, going 1 1/8 miles. And again, another nice race for me, talking to Rodman yesterday. I liked Unbridled Juan. At that point, the other Corrales horse, Something Awesome, hadn't scratched, and Dave was kind of thinking Something Awesome, if that horse came back ready to roll, would be kind of tough, but that one winds up getting scratched, and so Corrales has Unbridled Juan in here. 4-1, the 5-horse gets it done by a chart margin of half a length over Dalmore. Around the turn, I thought Dalmore, given the fact coming out of the Phoenix and the Whitney, maybe would have the class edge. Holds on nicely here for second, but we do get by with Unbridled Juan late.
Yeah, this was a good race, and talked with Jose Corrales afterwards, and who was always entertaining to talk with, but it's interesting. He just decided that Something Awesome, he said, is fine. He's ready to go. He just decided he didn't want the two of them to butt heads here, and they have a little bit similar running styles. This ended up being a pretty straightforward race. I actually really liked Dalmore in this spot. I thought that he had been in a couple of tough spots in his last couple races, grade 1, grade 2 company, and I thought the Phoenix going 3/4 probably was a nice work to set him up for this, and I thought he ran a really good race here. He just wasn't quite good enough. But Unbridled Juan is another horse that has come to Jose Corrales. Something Awesome sort of cuts the same profile, who was okay, but nothing special, running on the synthetic at Woodbine and this and that, and then they brought him to Jose at Laurel Park, and the horse really blossomed. Something Awesome won the General George, won the Charlestown Classic, doing that same thing, and now this horse has won 2 in a row. He won a minor stake at Delaware where he ran down a horse named Dr. Blarney, who pretty much never loses. And so that was a nice win, and this was even a better win, I think. And so this horse is really coming along nicely. It'll be interesting to see. I think that Jose thinks Something Awesome is a genuine graded stakes kind of horse, and that's what he's going to be doing with him. And I think he thinks of this horse probably as more as, the $100,000 local stakes kind of horse. But you make a lot of money winning these races, too.
Yeah, he looks like a hard knocker that can bounce around in those kind of stakes. I also want to mention running third, and there was Dr. Mounty, and I just want to mention that. I tossed Dr. Mounty in my mix, but as I talked to Rodman yesterday, I said, it's just trust in Shug, because the horse had tried this race last year and wound up 8th, and mostly looks like a turf runner, been training over at Fair Hill. And I just thought, looking at the race last year, you're scratching your head, why are they coming back? But I thought, I'll put my trust, as they say, in Shug, and wound up, a decent little third at 6-1 if folks put that horse in their mix.
Yeah, he rallied nicely at the end of that race. I mean, the top two were clearly the best in here, but that was a pretty good effort to get up for third, I thought, by Dr. Manny, just getting his nose ahead of Small Bear.
And again, sometimes you just have to use the crystal ball like that when you're handicapped. You're like, there's got to be something to this a little bit. Frank, as always, we appreciate the visit. Again, I'll tell people to swing by theracingbiz.com. More recaps of some of the action yesterday from Laurel. But again, that fun article from Linda Doherty looking back at the history of Garden State. And as you say, that'll be an ongoing series. So looking forward to that as well. But again, Frank, appreciate the visit.
All right, guys. My pleasure. Have a great day.
Frank Vespi, theracingbiz.com, covering some of that action from Laurel yesterday. Again, at yesterday's card, that was a good day for Laurel because with the two turf stakes getting washed off at Aqueduct, and there was a nice stakes card down at Gulfstream Park, but I think stakes-wise, they had the more intriguing card.
Yeah, it's quite interesting because there's a lot of notable names, especially, everybody usually follows the NYRA circuit. There were some names. Unbridled One was the one that won, and in Dalmore, which I found 20-1. Could you believe the 20-1 morning line?
I didn't have the horse in my mix, but I thought that morning line was going to be high. But then I looked up and I thought the 9-1. I think
that was more realistic, but I saw 20-1 on the morning line, and it really struck my interest, just like it did for Frank. Yeah. But again, if you had the exact, it paid off. I mean, 4-1 over 9-1 came back pretty well.
Was still pretty generous, I thought, given the class edge this horse. And around the turn, I thought, the class edge is going to play out.
Yeah, you could have said that he lost some of his form, and he did, but he was in some tough races. And you go back to that second place performance, I think 3 or 4 back, he ran a pretty gutsy race, almost exactly to like what he did yesterday.
And again, I think those two-year-old races are going to, the winners that came out of those races are going to make a little noise. Maybe they were both sprint races, so we may not be looking at the classic kind of contenders, Oaks or Derby or those kind of things, but I think they'll both be stakes players next year.
Absolutely.
That'll be worth keeping our eyes on. All right, I'm going to let you tout some of the promos coming up, as you are a member of the marketing department, so you are tapped into all the promos.
Tapped in. Yeah, absolutely. This is a big month for the Clubhouse Racebook. So we have this Wednesday, and as we did last Wednesday, we have Prize Wheel Wednesday here at the Clubhouse Racebook. Stop down, spin the wheel. It's always a fan favorite. You have a chance to win up to a $100 voucher, so come on down, swing by 711 Central Ave this Wednesday. We're going to do it every Wednesday, except for next Wednesday.
A lot of times I'll go out, I'll be in the parlor when they spin. Seems like everybody in the parlor watches when
you stop. Yeah, absolutely. And you're always rooting. You always want all the patrons. Yeah. That's one time where they're just like, I hope you win the $100. I hope you win the $100, and everybody always comes over. I cheered you on. I get $5. But it's a good time, so stop down on Wednesday. Also on Thursday, we're going to have a $100 knockout challenge here at the Clubhouse Racebook as well. So again, Wednesday and Thursday, stop down to the Clubhouse Racebook. Always fun. Our knockout challenges, the winner gets a $75 bet, and the runner-up gets a $25 bet. The only requirement is that you do have to be here to claim your prize, so stop down on Thursday. Also on Friday, we're going to have the bounty bet. It's back. It's up to $1,437. Now's the time to play. The pool is kind of built. It's going to be on the late pick 4 at Aqueduct. Again, play through your Capital Bets account. Once you play, if you win and hit that late pick 4, obviously you win what's ever in the pool at NYRA, but it also makes you eligible for part, if not all, of the 1437. So again, you're not sure how many people are going to win, especially being part of that Capital OTB pool. You could take down the whole 1437, but if not, you share 25% of the pool if 2 or more people hit. So take advantage of that on Friday. Also on Saturday, we're going to have fan appreciation at Catskill Lanes. I'll be down, say hi. It's about 45 minutes away from us right now, but stop down, 309 West Bridge Street. Again, it's a great easy bet location that we have, and stop down from 12 to 4 on Saturday. Also on Sunday, Football Sunday as today. Shannon Donovan's out right now. Stop down to the Clubhouse. We have our patented Squares promotion with the Football Sunday. Sign up for a Square. Halftime prize is $20 food credit, and then also the ultimate prize is the final score, where you can win an NFL jersey. Also, if you wear your NFL jersey, you get in for free here at the Clubhouse. So those are what's going on this week. Obviously, the big highlight next week is the turkey giveaway, which our good friend Roddy Valeni is going to. 1,200 turkeys are going to be given away here at the Clubhouse Racebook while supplies last. 11 a.m. And as you can see, all the sponsors below are also going to donate stuff as well. Again, it's that time of season where it's really nice to give back. We started it a couple years ago. Roddy Valeni did in conjunction with us, and it's really turned out to be a great thing around the Capital Region.
I'll tell you, it's a very popular event, so while supplies last is quick.
Yes. I was in the back of the truck the last couple of years, and you obviously we're going through all the turkeys, and I just looked over. I mean, the crowd was just as far as you could see.
Very popular.
So stop down on Wednesday.
Appreciate it, Roddy.
Yeah,
it's
Roddy's
a great gesture for all the
unbelievably.
sponsors as well, but Roddy
It's just a
family.
tremendous event. So stop down on Wednesday for the turkey giveaway. Again, 1,200 turkeys, and I want to thank all the sponsors below as well. So a lot going on here at Capital TV.
And we should, since we're out into Turkey Week, we should also mention for folks, I had the bankroll in here on Friday. I said yesterday it was a quirky day. Everybody got a little touch of money because I had one decent thought on the afternoon. It was a tough day where I was just kind of like floundering, but the bankroll comes back the day after Thanksgiving at O'Toole's with Sully.
Yeah, Sully's going to have it up at O'Toole's, and again, it's right down the road from us here on Central Ave, so stop down. And again, $300. The bankrolls are tough because, again, we put aside the money. We kind of switched our strategies before where we play with the whole entire thing. But again, it's one of those things where if it's your day, it can be fantastic.
Yeah, it's just like any other day.
Yeah.
If it's your day, you knock it out of the park, and if it's not, you kind of flounder a little bit. And it was a quirky day at the three places I was playing on Friday: Aqueduct, Churchill, and Woodbine, because the weather affected
some
things,
big prices.
and there was some crazy horses that just. So the pick bets, it was hard to come up with some races in a row, and then exactas, I was just kind of all around. Tried some tries, I was all around. But it's, as I say, had at least one or two. I had left with a little money, enough money that everybody walked away with at least a little something. But Sully will try to change that up and knock it out of the park. Again, that's a couple of weeks away. O'Toole's the day after Thanksgiving, so an on-the-road bankroll. And our last on-the-road bankroll was kind of fun down at Boulevard. Yeah, that was fun down there.
And Sully actually made the trek up to Queensbury. So we've been
that's right,
we've been going around locally as well.
Queensbury.
So the bankrolls are fun. Obviously, it's good for we always usually do them here at the Clubhouse Racebook or up at Saratoga during the
Spread
summer.
the wealth.
Some of the patrons are like, we've been waiting for you forever to see at the for these bankrolls. So we're going to try to get to each and every one.
There was a sibling to Takaful that ran yesterday, and I went and looked it up, and sure enough, Takaful's career debut was a win at a decent price. And I said, you know what? I think that was, and I think you were with me. We were at the parlor with the bankroll out in the western
Cleats.
part. Yeah.
Cleats out
and
in
I think
Utica.
Takaful was the one that made me some money that day. And the folks were kind of happy about it because, as I say, I think it was 20 to 1 or 10 to 1 and paid $20, but it was a nice little score. But I looked it up and I thought, Cleats. I forgot the name, but yeah, very good. All right, we will wrap things up for this Sunday edition of Racing Across America. Seth Merrill, Mike Callahan. We are running late, and they're kicking things off at Aqueduct with their pregame show, so we'll head down there. Be back in about an hour and 15 or so with OTB Live for a Sunday afternoon. Mike, good luck to you today.
Good luck to you as well.
And we'll see you in a few. Stay tuned.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.